himself in Belém. Eliot, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon.
How did the negotiations end, Eliot?
So it was a difficult ending. I mean, the way these COPs tend to work is you often tend to overrun, and you often tend to have, difficulty landing what is an incredibly complicated negotiation. Nearly 200 countries coming together in an outcome. This was probably even more scrappy than most, in the sense that we had a good ambitious text on the table, then that was replaced by a very unambitious text, and then that was replaced by a slightly better text in the last instance. And as that was being gavelled through, as that was being kind of finally agreed and noted as the final outcome, a number of countries said they wanted to intervene, they wanted to kind of make a point, they wanted to change that, and they weren't listened to. So there was then a kind of like a big back and forwards. There was a couple of hours where the talks were paused. But eventually that outcome was what came out. And I think probably what it showed is, the multilateral agreements are really difficult, and which is an obvious statement, but there was a controversy, there was a fight. This was not a process that didn't matter. It was a process that people had strong opinions on. It was a process where over 90 countries went on the record by saying that they wanted something really strong and explicit in terms of how we were going to move away from fossil fuels. And then a small group of countries, led largely by Saudi Arabia and others, went, no, we explicitly don't want that. I think in the last couple of COPs, those countries have not felt empowered to say that. This time round, they felt much more empowered to be able to do that.
Why do you think that is, Eliot?
I mean, it's not. We are in a world where the kind of conversation around climate change has got much harder. I think people, whether you look at the US, the change in US government, so obviously President Trump is explicitly making speeches to the UN, which are saying he doesn't believe in this climate change thing, and you've got other bits of pushback. But what is interesting is, it's the ISL at Cambridge where I work. We spend a lot of time working with the business community, and we were there in Belém with colleagues from businesses, and they were, there is in the business community, there is at least the ones that I work with, there is some question about what the shape of the future looks like, but the direction of travel is really, really clear. So, increasing investment in renewables, increasing development of things like electric vehicles, that is where things are going. The science of climate change is very well understood. These are companies that are like in the engineering sector, working in the tech sector. They look at this and they go, okay, well, we need to respond to this. Or investors and financial institutions, they go, this is a risk that we need to manage. So the private sector is moving in a direction. Arguably, it would like a greater level of clarity from the politics, but the politics is much choppier, much messier.
Saudi Arabia has said that each state must be allowed to build its own path based on its respective circumstances and economies. Is that what the oil-producing nations have been objecting to? That they feel that, hang on, this is our economy is based on this. We can't just simply change it because everybody else says so.
I mean, ultimately, yes. I mean, that is a big part of what the conversation is about. Sometimes, a global agreement can only be made when everybody in the world, particularly under the UN climate talks, it's a consensus system. Everybody has to agree to it, and that means that countries will buy into things if everybody else tells them we're all on this page. You are the last outstanding. But we're going in this direction. Do you really want to be left behind? But if enough of them are together saying, no, this isn't the consensus, then they can hold it up. And, I think what was on the table, the idea of a roadmap, a plan for how we get away from fossil fuels, does not actually remove that freedom that Saudi Arabia is looking for, but it does start to solidify the momentum that is already there in the economy. It starts to accelerate that momentum, and that is going to be difficult for their economies. These economies are very reliant on a strong oil price, a steady export of fossil fuels, and so, yeah, they have an interest in slowing down this process and delaying it. They can't fully stop it, but they will slow it down, and that's what they're doing.
Eliot, does COP still matter? I mean, we know that there's great support. If you poll the British public, there's great support for looking after the environment, taking action to prevent the effects of climate change. We know people know about what's going on, they care about it. But does COP actually matter to people in the UK?
It absolutely does. It absolutely captures and sets a level of global momentum. And it's not So I suppose it's not two things. It's not going to ever give you a single perfect answer that just makes everybody go away, go, all right, we've all got it, we've solved climate change. It's not as simple as that. And it's not something where you can sort of impose the will of anybody on anybody else. It's got to be it's a negotiation, it's an agreement, and it moves things forward. But like countries were fighting over who gets to host the next one. There are tens of thousands of people part of that conversation. It agreed pledges of billions of pounds.
Eliot, I have to leave it there, I'm afraid, because of time. But Eliot, thank you so much for giving us all this time. I really appreciate it. Eliot Whittington, Chief Systems Officer at Cambridge Institute for Sustainable Leadership.
Across the UK.